Famed anti-draw, zest, fruity rimmings, and his latest team of meat market men are gonna be all over the show tonight. Notice I said famed anti-draw, who, as the centerpiece of the show lately, has seen ratings go down, as always, is all over the show. This whole show is centered around a guy and his faction who could barely draw junkies to an opium den. My goodness me. As always, pointless drone shot of outside that no one cares about, followed by lame arrival shots. The arrival shots are always a pathetic waste of time, but tonight, even worse. It was Jabroni Central, with the likes of Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and the Judgment Day seriously pretending like they're some kind of big deal the marks in the arena should go crazy for seeing. All of them, walking around pointlessly, backstage. Okay then. The one aspect of Seth Rollins that is genuinely very over, his entrance theme, kicked things off for some talking to get this show moving. Nothing like opening a wrestling show on a promo we've probably seen 100 times before by now. Things got slightly more interesting than usual when Bron Breakker remembered he has the ability to speak in public, taking the mic to go on a tirade about Sami Zayn. Breakker revealed that Rollins and Plump Heyman believe he could be the face of the WWE. Okay, why is he an idiot henchman then? It picked up a bit more when he spoke for many fans out there, when he expressed his confusion, and I get the impression Breakker gets confused a lot to be honest, over how fans could still support someone as lame as Sami Zayn. It is safe to say that fan support has gone downhill considerably from where it was 2 years ago with the Bloodline and the Kevin Owens reunion angles that were actually good and over. Breakker also hates Sami Zayn's beard. I'll cut the guy some slack and say he does have quite thick, well-groomed facial hair in fairness to him. What really needs to go with Zayn is that awful long hair. Bronson Reed then basically pulled a babyface move by further delaying us all having to listen to Seth Rollins. He reminded us of that glorious time he crushed the anal tect with 6 tsunamis last year, and vowed to do something similar to mid-card Jey Uso on this show. Please, yes, that would be delightful. Zesty got testy when the fans chanted for CM Sucks, so Plump Heyman took the mic for more of the exact same promo style we've seen from him time and time again since his old 2012 return. Heyman teased a Roman Reigns return. No doubt the OTC will very conveniently return in time to build an angle for SummerSlam soon. And he also mocked Penta's silly little hand signs. Look, that Cierro Miedo is kinda stupid. The fact that Penta spams it in matches like taunts in a video game to build up his offense bar quicker does not help. But that's 2 guys here who resorted to saying wrestlers they don't like look stupid. First Breakker, now Heyman. Whatever happened to colourful, funny trash talk or dramatic, intense trash talk? Either's fine. Everything from that time The Rock did a promo claiming Vince McMahon was sleeping with lumberjacks and a deer in the woods, to Jake Roberts vowing to humiliate Ted DiBiase and very seriously trashing the $1 Million Man's rich scumbag ways at WrestleMania 6. To John Cena in more modern time, handing out merciless worked-shoot burials to younger talent. Many talents have used all manner of speaking styles and storytelling techniques and character work to up the ante with their rivals on the mic. And now we're just at people saying the other person looks stupid. Wow. Despite being heels, Seth Rollins and Plump Heyman still want the fans to say their catchphrases with them, begging for crowd support. Please say my line and buy my shirt with it later tonight while you're at it. Thanks so much for the support, everyone. That's really not how heels are meant to work. Anyway, very disturbing angle next. AJ Styles is now stalking and harassing a man half his age. Dominik Mysterio was hanging around for another pointless Judgment Day segment of teased tension that goes nowhere, that no one cares about. Can we just remember that this used to be a faction of tough, evil goths causing chaos on Monday nights, and now it's the petite undercard goof squad? Bar Raquel Rodriguez, whose growth hormones at puberty time saved her from just one of those criticisms. I'll let you guess which one it was. Anyways, creepy AJ Styles sent the new apple of his eye a get-well-soon cake, and was revealed to be watching him this whole time. Good grief, don't go into the toilets alone, dumb. Up next, all 4 feet of resident Munchkin wrestler Roxanne Perez versus Jey Sane, who's hopefully outgrown handing out career-threatening injuries this week. Perez tried to be an aggressor to start with, but watching someone who looks like they haven't sat their SATs yet throw angry little faces and little fists is just laughable. Initially, it appeared the story was going to be a battle of wits between 2 barely atomweights. The crowd couldn't care less about. They traded a variety of surprise pin attempts, but this quickly devolved into strikes, and Raquel Rodriguez popping up to give Perez the unfair heel advantage. And, in theory, provides Sane with some babyface sympathy from the crowd. Perez worked over Sane's arm, but was portrayed as too reckless and cocky to fully capitalize on the injured limb, allowing Sane to make some comebacks. Ultimately, despite all the attention focused on the Judgment Day of late, this match was the Kairi Sane show, with her overcoming the odds by squashing Rodriguez on the outside with a big dive, before turning Perez's little pup rucks move into a surprise pin for the win. The heels attempted to get some heat back after the job with a beating on Sane, but Asuka wasn't having any of it. Reminding us all of those utterly dreadful days of famed shots-to-the-face collector Paige managing them as the Kabuki Warriors. Anyways, to sum up, Perez and Rodriguez looked like absolute chumps throughout this, all in service of setting up a tag team title feud with Sane and Asuka that the Crickets and the Tumbleweeds will be in the house for. Sami lame promo next, more hurt feelings and anguish as the WWE's surprisingly accurate interpretation of an aging hipster beta male persona whinged about his ribs. About his ongoing homoerotic tensions with Karrion Kross and his match with Bron Breakker later tonight. As Zayn walked off to probably give his therapist a quick call or something, we discover Scarlett was watching him, clearly keeping an eye on this man her husband is so unhealthily obsessed with. Probably wondering how Kross could possibly want this guy's doughy, pale, ginger rear end when he's got Scarlett's titanium implants to enjoy at home. A whole lot of nothing talking segments next. The new job talked about getting a tag title rematch. No one cares. American Made briefly lets slip that El Grande Americano is Chad Gable, despite the fact that Gable is injured, and the masked Patriot is meant to wrestle on this show, and then Adam Pearce began talking about the Evolution show, so I hit fast forward. How do you like them apples? And Nikki Bella is in the Women's Battle Royal on that show. Do we think she was going to have a singles match with Liv Morgan before Morgan fell foul of the butchy wrath of Jey Sane? I'd say so. Anyway, Sami Zayn was coming out for his match, that is, when Karrion Kross, this guy, slipped Zayn a hard one from behind, and by that I obviously mean he attacked him with that pipe again. That's all I mean with that comment. As I explained last week, the pipe is symbolic of the erection Kross has over Zayn, his unhealthy, increasingly depraved obsession with this guy, and his frustration with Zayn's refusal to acknowledge his true nature as a man who'd like to spend time meeting other men in men's restrooms and the like. The beatdown, awful timing, was right before Zayn's match with Bron Breakker. Oh no! Last year, Zayn and Breakker displayed solid chemistry in some strong bouts over the Intercontinental Championship. You won't be getting that here though, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Now you'll get injured Zayn, fighting through the pain to make Breakker look oddly weak before Breakker beats him anyway. Presumably, let's see if I'm right. Zayn played the injured jabroni here as a cocky Breakker put a beating on him, targeting the bad ribs and throwing Zayn around. We just had a bad ribs angle with Jey Uso and Gunther, but apparently we've already got another one. How original, not repetitive at all. A spear attempt saw Zayn miraculously come back to life, hitting a clothesline. You'd think with how he's selling severe injuries and how Breakker's spear is meant to be unstoppable, Zayn would do something like, say, sidestep the spear to send Breakker into the corner, so he's outwitted him, he's used his speed to get an advantage, but instead he just lamps Breakker with a clothesline, making the son of Steiner look like an inept glass cannon. The psychology continued to make no sense as a damaged and deranged Zayn went to the top rope despite his condition, when he easily could have gone for a submission hold or some strikes on the stunned, grounded Breakker and struck while he could. In fairness though, this was all a setup for a great spear from Breakker, so we won't hate on them too much for this incredibly nonsensical match structure. A spear festival then, with an incensed Breakker hitting one on the outside and then again in the ring for the win. Breakker is so good with his facial expressions and his body language in the ring. He absolutely nails coming across as a wrecking ball, and he's got that psycho meathead jock persona nailed down to a T between the ropes. He just needs better promo material and he'd be all set for a march to the main event. Poor Adam Pearce suffered an awful ordeal next when he had to stand around letting the Old Day and Becky Cringe try and garner some cheap heat, desperately trying to convince us they're not just relics of a cringy era from the closing days of Vince McMahon, that frankly no one is that interested in anymore. And speaking of I'm the man, a Becky Lynch talking segment next. I would honestly rather sit through Io Sky saying we are whip we for 10 minutes than this brain rot slop we're about to get here. Becky Lynch was, for a time, for reasons I'm still not sure of, very over as a face. After she came back from maternity leave, she revealed she just prefers being a heel. Despite it severely exposing what a truly Razzie-worthy actress she is. You know, if she could get acting work in film and TV. I think we all know why she has to keep crawling back to WWE every year. We've been handed more than one unwatchable, cringe merchant heel run in the years since, interspersed with unwatchable babyface work where she comes across as an obnoxious wanker, high off the fumes of her own farts. Even putting quotes from her insipid memoir onto her ring attire at one point. Let me tell you, you couldn't pay me or blow me to read that memoir. Here she immediately shot herself in the foot with his nonsensical promo, where first she said Bayley and Bird Lady don't deserve a shot at her belt. Fine, whatever. She did understand, though, why Adam Pearce had put her in the match, apparently, but then revealed that she didn't understand why she had to wrestle Bayley and Bird Lady. So she just said she understands why she's in the match, but then said straight after she doesn't understand why she's in a match with these two. Make it make sense! Bayley then came on down in a bid to upstage Lynch's just awful mic work with her bad child actor approach to line delivery. However, that was quickly interrupted by Bird Lady doing another one of her funny walks to the ring. Bird Lady said something about Lynch being crazy and wanting her title back, I don't even know, and then Bayley was still sore about Bird Lady costing her chance at winning the gold the other week. Bayley said she doesn't need friends or heartbreak. Okay, look, the friends part made sense given her growing beef with Bird Lady, but who the hell ever needs heartbreak? What kind of weirdo masochist would go around looking specifically for that? This segment is a dumpster fire of why people make fun of women's wrestling. Bird Lady called Lynch and Bayley massive disappointments. I'd call them massive ads for giving AEW another chance, personally. But hey, either's fair enough. Bayley then trashed Bird Lady for raising Becky Lynch's hand after their matchup, whenever it was, Money in the Bank, I think. Does Bayley not watch the show? That was the stipulation. She's trashing someone for being decent enough to stick to their word on something. Disgraceful. This was all a bunch of televisual diarrhea that ended with Bird Lady standing tall after hitting the Dick Grayson on the other two, so I guess you can all but guarantee she won't be the winner this weekend. Paunch Heyman revealed that Sami Zayn will be out indefinitely. Oh no. Devastated. That guy just brings so much to the show. He's so cool, so manly. The epitome of attitude and charisma. Can't get enough of that Sami Zayn. Ooh. Anyways, I just want to point out that Sami Zayn was out indefinitely already this year, after that great Kevin Owens match at Elimination Chamber, and then he just showed up right after WrestleMania, so it really wasn't that indefinite, was it? I guess we'll just see him after SummerSlam. For some reason, Sami Zayn is not allowed to attend the big shows this year. Bronson Reed versus Jey Uso. Here we go. I want to see some tsunamis. I want to see Uso on a stretcher, in kayfabe. I would never wish injury for real on anyone. That would be terrible. Uso came out as the aggressor here, quickly hitting Reed with a big kick, but failing to muster up the strength to get the heavy-set Aussie moving with an Irish whip. The story and structure here was perfectly logical, with Uso having to use both his wits and some aggression to keep the match moving and avoid Reed's high-impact offense. The problem here was Uso was simply given too much offense, making the monstrous Reed look rather weak and slow, and also quite foolish, given his tough-talking promo at the start of the show. A frustrated Reed wound up smacking Uso with a steel chair for a cheap DQ loss that benefited no one. Post-match, Reed got a bit of heat for squashing Uso with 2 tsunamis, but overall he looked quite weak here, given he's meant to be a mean, nasty bruiser between the ropes. Adam Pearce and friends managed to stop Reed after just 2 tsunamis on Uso. Where were they, with that much conviction, to save Seth Rollins last year when he got utterly demolished by 6? I smell discrimination against the Monday Night Man-Eater for his preferences. El Grande Ludwig Kaiser wrestled Dragon Lee next, with Michael Cole roasting the obvious differences between him and the Chad Gable version. Kaiser kept up with Dragon Lee's lucha style as the pair opened with some slick, dynamic exchanges. The story here followed Dragon Lee trying to figure out this new version of Americano, who was frequently quick to ground Lee's offense and prevent him from taking flight. A big sit-down powerbomb from Lee nearly ended the match, and almost provided the space for the luchador to remove the no longer American Americano's mask. Lee continued to largely lead the closing stretch of the bout, surviving a blockbuster to hand Americano a big double stomp in the corner. Ultimately, as is customary with El Grande Americano, a metal plate headbutt was all she wrote, as Ludwig Kaiser got his first win on the main roster in I don't even know how long. Good match for what it was. These two worked well together and put on an athletic, sometimes funny piece of fast-paced action with a silly but story-appropriate finish. Penta had a brief moment with Heyman and Breakker backstage. Penta can exclusively either remind us he's happy to be in the WWE or say "Cero miedo." Given 2 heels were getting in his face here, I'm sure you can guess which of those options he went with. Karrion Kross got some promo time next. Huge pop from the live crowd, including some "We want Kross" chants. Good grief. Are these piped in? No pun intended, of course. It's just hard to believe anyone could be that into the guy off the back of a decent shoot promo the other month and a weird feud with Sami Zayn in the present. But hey, who knows? Anyways, Kross vowed to keep hard blasting Zayn with some hard pipings until he admits Kross told the truth. Did no one tell Kross Sami Zayn's going to be off TV indefinitely now? And the truth about what exactly, I must ask. Some BS about Zayn being a liar, even though he's been a fairly noble babyface character for well over 2 years now. Utter nonsense, and in kayfabe, Karrion Kross, unfortunately, is allergic to victory, so it's hard to take his attempts at being a threatening tough guy all that seriously. Up next, one of this channel's childhood favourite wrestlers eventually came hobbling out to promote his final bout this weekend. But first, his opponent Gunther, who's gone back to being interesting for the first time since his Damian Priest feud, now that he's finally completely free of the dreaded Jey Uso vortex. Gunther's really rediscovered his voice and his fire with this feud. While the match itself has little to no chance of being at all good, this angle has really helped him as a character. Assuming Goldberg puts him over this weekend, the ring general could be fully back on track as one of the WWE's premier acts after the ridiculous damage that was done to his kayfabe credibility and his general interest, perhaps worse still, during the Uso feud. Anyways, Gunther suggested Goldberg was scared of him, which was of course the cue for Goldberg arriving in the car park, shockingly late. These old-timer part-timers, they're so unprofessional, no respect at all. Goldberg stormed to the ring, and while he doesn't move so well anymore, he carried himself with intensity and purpose here. His facial expressions were suitably aggressive and zeroed in. And there was a lot of heat in the arena as he came face to face with Gunther. This live crowd were really good. You could tell they were enjoying the show. It was nice. There's something to be said for no BS segments like this, where the enemies come face to face, and rather than just standing around mics in hand talking about nothing forever, they just get in each other's faces and you know a fight's going to break out at any moment. The crowd was so into this, and Goldberg got a big pop for slapping the mic out of Gunther's hand. Gunther went for an incredibly slow, telegraphed right hand for Goldberg to counter, who then sent the champ crashing to the mat with a shot of his own. Gunther fled the ring before Goldberg could accidentally break himself in half with a spear attempt. This feud, like I said, has been very good, surprisingly good, and even though this segment was very basic, it told a logical story in getting across that Goldberg, while quite decrepit these days, is still a mean, tough fighter who packs a punch to teach his younger, arrogant nemesis a lesson with. Goldberg seemed a bit gassed just doing this though, so the match on Saturday could well be a disaster zone if Gunther doesn't have some elite level working boots on. Main event time, Seth Rollins versus Penta. It's really quite impressive just how quickly Penta became just another mid-card guy on these shows. He received a good deal of hype for his debut earlier this year, but was immediately stripped of any intrigue when he did a corporate bootlicker, happy to be here promo for his first time on the live mic in the WWE, and has since comfortably transitioned into a nothing burger mid-card role. They basically copied the start to the Reed vs. Uso match earlier in the show, with the babyface going for a surprise attack and superkick right off the bat. The two brawled on the outside where Penta largely stayed on top, including a big diving hurricane runner on Rollins. Much of the early stretch of this match revolved around Penta being the aggressor, determined to prove himself against the bigger star and frequently dominating the action in the process. Rollins got busted open hard way during a commercial. We're always missing the good stuff with these endless ads. And then he continued to bump and sell for Penta heavily, making him look very strong. Rollins finally regained and established some proper control with a big gutbuster and a frog splash. Penta's dreaded Penta driver suffered some aura death here as Rollins kicked out in a great, painfully close near fall as the bout heated up. A lot of big moves traded here as this bout, in fairness, went from strength to strength with excellent pacing and a logical face versus heel dynamic throughout. Rollins survived a Mexican destroyer with a rope break for another great near fall before quite literally giving Penta head, throwing his cranium very low into Penta's groin before hitting the curb stomp for the win. Rollins really doesn't help himself with these zesty accusations a lot of the time, does he? Anyways, Rollins' Roman orgy pals came out, no pun intended, to help him put a beating on Penta, but LA Knight's here to make the save. Knight planted Rollins with the BFT before running off into the crowd, and for some reason the Seth Riders could only chase him so far before stopping, like when you reach the end of a map in a video game and they just kind of malfunctioned and gave up as Knight hightailed it out of there. Not nearly as bad as last week's Raw, in fairness, huge improvement, with some effort going into building up this weekend's shows. That being said, the relentless over-push of Seth Rollins continues. Every time this guy has been given the ball to roll with, at the top of the card or near enough, ticket sales and ratings have gone down. Heel or face, merchandise tops, or Elton John outfit rip-offs. It doesn't matter, this guy is not a needle mover. He's a good wrestler, no one's saying he's untalented, but he's not a draw. And Triple Nose's decision to have the product revolve around him so much this year is not paying dividends, and is instead actually hurting other talents, particularly his henchmen, both of whom are cut out for more than just being his bonehead thugs. But hey, good TV main event, if nothing else.